The Clayworks Mystery. Although the typhoon had diverted its course, occasional strong winds still blew, and sometimes heavy rain clouds dumped their load. And finally, lessons at school ended for the day without it having to close due to the typhoon. In the 5-3 classroom, Takashi and Ryota were on day duty, and as such, were cleaning the room thoroughly. By the time they were finally done putting everyone's desks back, the classroom was rather dim, even though it was still only just past 4 p.m. All that was left was the single row of desks by the windows. On those desks were a fish tank with carp swimming inside, a globe, and other clay works placed on paper. "What should we do about this?" Ryota asked, planning to just leave it be. What should we do? Takashi also gave a lazy response. There were small pieces of dried clay around the crafts, and in general, it just looked dusty. It seemed the people on duty yesterday didn't clean it either. At the start of last week, they needed the clay and then all got together to excitedly talk about what they wanted to make. But then this week, it was like they'd already forgotten about it. "I don't want to touch it. It might break," Ryota said. Takashi nodded and moved closer to look. The piece that was taking up the most space was the limited express train and railway that Sachio and 5 or 6 other kids made. The previous week, Sachio moved to a neighbouring prefecture, so it was a sort of unspoken parting gift that Ryota and Takashi also took part in making. It was a stylish train that even had seats on the inside for passengers to sit on, and open windows. There was also a driver in the driver's seat. The track bed was raised on a board, and they put down tracks and railroad ties. There was even a traffic light. At the end of the rails was a magnificent train car. And when they were finally done, the teacher even took a photo of everyone who had helped create it. Now, it was fully dry, and the train car was bending a little. Sachio was a big fan of limited express trains from all over Japan, huh? Ryota said, feeling a little downcast. Next to the train there were some animals. First, 2 elephants, one of them with its long trunk sticking up, and one with its trunk in its mouth. Then, a tall giraffe, and a short, stocky rhinoceros. Then a rabbit and a frog. Other than that, there were a few human hands too. One with its fingers spread apart, another closed in a fist, one pointing at something, etc. They were all facing either up or down, creating a weird atmosphere. There was a story last year or the year before that about a hand that started climbing up the wall. They say it's one of the 7 school mysteries, but there's no way one can move by itself, right? Takashi said, touching the clay with his fingertip. Next to that was a human head. Not just one, but 3. Although their teacher was the model, they all had a different face, and in the quiet, dim classroom, they were especially creepy. If there were torsos and legs, this would look like a mutilation case, Ryota said, letting his mouth run off again. But then suddenly, one of the heads fell over. "Uah!" Takashi jumped. He tried to put it back, but it wouldn't sit right. Annoyed, he tried over and over, but it wouldn't stay upright. "Ah! It smiled!" Ryota screamed. Takashi pulled his hands back and the head fell from the desk to the floor, shattering on impact. Ryota screamed again. "Stop playing around! Get back to work!" Takashi said angrily. No, it really did smile. Ryota took a step back. Then he grabbed his bag and ran for the door. Takashi then grabbed his bag and followed him out. As the pair ran out the door, they turned around. And then, a red fireball floated through the window from outside and seemed to get sucked into the clay train. For a moment, the area lit up like a red lamp. Then, the train started to move. It ran along the clay tracks, then over the elephants and giraffe and rhinoceros, before approaching the hands and heads. Having seen that, Ryota and Takashi took off running down the hall. They couldn't breathe, nor even scream. Before dinner, Takashi felt like watching the news. Normally, he'd pick a comic to read, but tonight was different. When the news began, Takashi was shocked. In S-Town, in the neighbouring prefecture, there had been a train accident. Come to think of it, S-Town was where Sachio had moved to. The accident happened around 4:30 p.m. Sediment from the cliff crumbled and loosened, and when the train hit it, it derailed. Emergency workers worked desperately in the rain, carrying injured passengers out the windows. Ambulances rushed to the hospital. There were doctors, nurses, and a woman with bandages around her head. Names and ages appeared on screen of those involved in the accident and the hospitals they went to. One small mercy was that it seemed that although many people were injured, no one had died. But at the end of the list, Sachio's name appeared. His age was the same too. The names were read out again. After confirming it, Takashi called Ryota right away. The phone was busy. He tried calling their teacher. Their phone was also busy. He put the receiver back down and the phone suddenly rang. It was Ryota. He had also seen the news and was shocked. First, he had called their teacher. Apparently, Sachio wasn't injured that badly, or so they hoped. They still didn't know the exact condition of those injured. Then, Ryota lowered his voice and seemed to whisper. "I didn't say anything to the teacher, but that clay train really moved, right?" Takashi also lowered his voice and whispered, "The clay works really did move. Yeah,